it
I'm
up.
gonna hit the record button just so it's just running in the background. I can always edit it.
Nice. Same. I have a record on my side as well.
Nice. Nice. I like that this is a dual purpose. I don't know why we didn't like think about that before, because I feel like at least for me, it feels like like I don't need ownership of it. Like that feels weird and like pressure to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it feels very like, oh, we should have just like been doing this the whole time and like just, put it wherever, yours, my, whatever.
Yeah. Where it's from like, this is my podcast to just, this is a podcast, which is barely even a podcast. It's just us talking, you know, which
Yeah.
you call it a podcast because you record it, but it's really the
Yeah.
same thing. It's
I
called
do feel like
a swap cast in the podcast world where you both record and post.
oh, I like that. I feel like I feel like there is a part of podcasting or like just the essence of recording it and having a microphone that for me has been like I don't know, like a skill to learn or just a way of like, because it's like one thing to own your thoughts, and then it's another thing to own your words, and then it's another thing to own those words that you would say to someone else, and then it's
Yeah.
another thing to own those words in a way that you would record those words. And I feel like I've been learning to let the inside thoughts become outside thoughts, and the confidence process that has had to unfold in order to get to a point where I could own the words while recording
Yeah.
has been like kind of a necessary part of this, which I think is why people are mad at me right now.
Probably, yeah. Well, it's interesting too because then it's like merging the outside and the inside, so it's like one continuous you versus like the different versions that I think, especially younger too, where there's like a version for my family and there's a version for Megan and there's a version for my friends, and just merging all of those into like one singular thing where it's like output, input, all of it's the exact same.
Yeah, the whole idea of like masking and all of us finding out that we're like some level of autistic and we've been masking to some degree, even if it was just like you just said, like the younger version of me versus like the version that my parents get and the version that Chris gets and the version that my friends get, to be able to try to like just be on my center, which is always evolving. Like I'm open to new perspective, a new growth opportunity. Like, I do believe like if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I'm always open to like reevaluating where I'm speaking from and what that center is. But I also feel like I've done a lot of work to identify that spot that people that maybe haven't done that work or in the process of that and are still very, very in the emotional bandwidth, uh, I just feel like they can't really say shit to me. I
Well,
don't know.
I mean, or they will.
Or they will.
Or they will.
That's true. But I feel pretty okay with the consequences on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is the benefit of like doing that emotional work. It's like
Yeah.
how much is that really gonna like I already thought it through prior to the emotional reaction. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really change it.
And the same thing, the Mami Onami thing, the sacrifice with each one, like things get peeled off as you begin the process of work through stuff, even as just like a natural occurrence. It's not even, I don't know if it's always, it always has to even be a conscious sacrifice in quotes. It's like the things will just show up that will be sacrificed in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's the choice too. Is like realize it's like how hard are you gonna hold on to something,
Hmm.
and like why are you holding on to it? Like, am I holding on to it because of I mean, it's just a need outside of myself that I've convinced myself that I have potentially, like whatever, whether it's a person or I don't know, anything, situation. Like, why wouldn't I let it go when it becomes obvious that that's the correct path?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I'm I'll fight for people. Chris and I've been together a long time. I have almost all the relationships in my life are like very long with, and like people that you just keep kind of working through because that thread of potential is still there. Both people, at least there's a thread of continuing to want to grow,
Yeah.
both as a person and individually, and then also in whatever the relationship dynamic is, whether it's siblings or parents or my spouse or my children or my close friends. And I think when it becomes clear that somebody's like not wanting to go to that place of growth, like that thread isn't there, then I'm clearly not the right person for that person to engage in that thread. Like I'm just not the person to be in the relationship dynamic or the friendship or whatever. And that's fine. Like I don't need to be, as I'm purging my own saviorism programming.
Yeah.
I don't need to be like, that's okay. Like you can be mad at me and you can think that you like project all whatever you want to believe at me or on me. And I, I don't know. I just feel like I'm good with me. And I could not say that for a very long time. So it kind of feels like something I'm not willing to like just hand over that power to someone else easily.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I've thought about this too. All the, I guess it's more marriage advice that people put out of like what makes a good marriage. And you have like all the cliches where it's like communication is key. Me and Megan make fun of that all the time because people speak in such broad generalities of like, oh, you have good communication. Like, what does that even mean? Like just saying good communication, thanks for your wonderful insight. Or like, don't go to bed angry. Like, well, fucking sometimes I'm going to be angry
Sometimes,
and I'm going to bed. All right, I need my
yeah.
sleep. So I'm going to do that. So stuff like that, and having like the opportunity to talk to tons and tons and tons of guys who are going through relationship issues, I feel like the common theme in all of it is the growth part, where their relationship, they stopped growing because they got focused on momentum in business, or maybe they had kids, whatever it was. They stopped growing, and then maybe their partner did too, and then they stagnated, or even the other side where their partner kept growing and they didn't. So now they're all of a sudden realizing the gap between them and their partner, and then that's causing the issues. But it always like comes back, I feel like the most like fundamental, most important part of a relationship, or especially a marriage, is like both people, and as best they can, intentionally trying to be truthful with themselves and trying to grow and attempting to work through their own emotions. And if those things are in place, I'm like, you can figure out almost anything realistically.
Yeah, I feel like I think because of the experience of like big T trauma, like,
Hmm.
a lot of people experience a slow drip of trauma, which trauma is trauma, so like one's not better than the other. But one of the silver linings of big T trauma of like an event happening is that it becomes this like birth nexus node point that life is constantly being compared to, and that moment is like constantly being reflected on. Even in periods of denial that I went through, or it was still such an ever present part of even the denial that I was trying to exist within. And there was such a bar put into my mind of like what was really important in the world. And I think like when you face death as a young person, it just everything else kind of like it pales in comparison. So the relationships that make your life, blossom become way more important. The backdrop of death always being kind of an ever-present part of your existence puts a certain kind of texture on all of your relationships. And then I feel like having the realization that like your kids are on loan to you as a parent. It's like even when you cross that divide, like businesses come and go, money comes and goes, your beauty comes and goes, your kids also, like they're always going to be your kids, but the couples that put kids as the hyper focus and use that as the glue for their relationship is still not deep enough. And
Yeah.
like, because those kids, if you've done it right, those kids are going to go be well-adjusted adults that have their own kids, and you're not in some kind of codependent relationship with your kids, like if you're trying to do it in a healthy manner. It's ultimately you and your spouse is like, end of the day, like that's it, like that is your ride or die, like that's the person that you chose, and like that's going to be volatile at times, but I think people make those decisions from places that sometimes, like after so long, like the where they made that decision from starts to become thin and the bottom drops out. And then it's like it's great that things like the powerful man exist, and I think as that evolves, it like everybody needs reparented, women, men, like everybody, like we're all kind of figuring out this new way of actually being, because we're realizing that the programming and the conditioning that we were put through as young people, like it's kind of coming up shallow now
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways.
But see, it's just like the energetics of it too, which I think you see it all the time, even with Aaron and Jordan and IFCA, you see it in the Powerful Man too, where like a guy will sign up, and before he even starts, all of a sudden he has these huge wins start coming up, or like things change, and it's like it's just because you put it out there that like you want to grow, you want to be better, you use the energetics of money to like play into it, and now you're like on that path, and all the other stuff can be icing on the cake, but just like going into that place of like I want to be better, or I want to grow, I want to experience this, and just putting that energy out there can already be a lot.
Oh yeah, people underestimate like what a timeline jump is. Like, we hear that, and either people either think of like Mandela effects, or they just don't relate it to like their personal life and what that actually looks like and feels like, because they do it unconsciously for so much of their life. But the moment you make that decision to engage in a new experience, I mean, everything relates to the hero's journey. So you can look at your life, and if you're the hero and you've now chosen to have an adventure, to learn a new thing, and you get the mentor, and you just like work your way around that, you have jumped timelines. And just as like a fun little fact, the hero's journey exactly matches the Enneagram. It's the same steps. And so
Mm.
you can move through it in continual time, chronological time. And you can also look at it through Kairos time, where you are starting to see what your next step will be, and which, like, how you're moving through the spiral of time as well. And so as people sign up and they do things like the Powerful Man or IFCA, or even just hiring a fitness coach to go, having an energy work session, maybe they've never had a Reiki session and somebody comes in, or human design, we're sitting down, you've hired a mentor to take you on this journey, and you are shifting your paradigm. Some of those shifts happen, they're huge, right? You do something like Powerful Man, you're putting way more money into it, and your expectation of what you're getting for that is bigger. And so then that hero's journey actually contains lots of smaller hero's journeys within that to bring the full journey together. Whereas like somebody does a session with me, that's just an hour of time. They have to kind of continue to choose to put themselves in those situations and let those like more subtle things unlock. But it can be just as beneficial because it's starting to shift those underlying energetics, and some people need a more subtle transition.
Yeah.
They're just not ready for the $10,000 program. They
Mm-hmm.
need they need kind of a little bit of like confidence and assurance, and like they need to be kind of pushed on the path a little bit more gently.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely been moments in my life where I'm like asking God or the universe, I'm like, look, I don't want to take a baseball bat to the face. I just would like a little slow drip for some period of time, and then we can revisit the big baseball bat thing, you know?
Oh yeah, I have a whole thing where it's like, man, especially if I'm doing some work around like deep subconscious programming. When you're in there, and a lot of times like these things will come up for me. Oh man, meditation, even like meditative walk, driving, just like giving myself the space for whatever kind of needs to come up. You know, maybe I notice a thought that am continuing to have, or an emotion I'm continuing to have that's like just not really serving me. And once that like starts to come up and you start to go into it, it can be really easy to hang out in the mental space and try to, well, where's it come from? And why is
Mm-hmm.
that my story? And that's okay. It's just limited because the mental space can only clear something so much. That's why talk therapy has, I mean, that was a great starting point in society for mental health care. But now we're starting to see where that's a very much a starting gate kind of thing because it's all mental space. At
Mm-hmm.
some point, we have to bring this into the body, access it there, and allow it to move through our energy field and move out. But as it moves down from the mental space, especially if it's something very old, as you move it from the mental space and down into the body, there's kind of a point where it gets like hazy and you're just not sure which direction is up and like what's the new pathway because you don't really have that neural pathway ingrained yet, and you're also just becoming aware of new ways of looking at the old way that you were thinking. And so like to not judge yourself in the in between there and just kind of let time take its course and trust that time will just allow it to move through. And it can start to get really, it can just get overwhelming in it. And I always try to, and that's where like for me ho'oponopono comes in because it's just such an easy way to like kind of give yourself a guidepost, like a lighthouse in those energies. And that's just repeating, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, because those phrases individually all have a high frequency, but then when you put them together, they're able to just really just a lighthouse in the shadows of your mind. And then in order to try to prevent the tower smack you in the face moment of some big thing, I always try to set the intention of like, if the new direction and the new neural pathways that I'm starting to head to in order to heal through this old pattern is not the right direction, if that's ultimately not going to serve my highest expression of self, please make that obvious and gentle.
Yeah. I've used that a few times since you first told me that. It's a good one.
It, yeah. I found that it also helped me to tune to the subtle energies and use reality as my oracle without having to do like, big doses of psychedelics, or like I could just watch my field and I would start to see things more subtly, or how I was engaging with my reality in a more subtle way that was like, oh, okay, that's where that pattern shows up in this like lesser way over here, but I know that it's going to lead that way because now I can
Mm-hmm.
see it with a different level of clarity.
Yeah. I think that's often where like the metaphorical baseball bat to the face comes in, is like there's in the sense of like God is like always speaking to you in many different ways, and depending on how tuned in or how much you're like paying attention in quotes, it's like sometimes the signal, there's a lot of subtle things that if you're tuned in and you're paying attention, you can just get them that way. And then sometimes it's like if all those are ignored, then like what's the only other way that this can be brought to you, which sometimes is like a little bit abrasive, you know. So I think even on
Yeah.
that level, it's like just paying attention to myself and my surroundings and the subtleties that come with it, and then seeing that like, oh, I'm being communicated with through all of these things if I'm looking at them.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's also something that when something big happens in your life, like when I call, I feel very lucky that I get to use the joke, I don't want to get hit in the face by another semi.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Yeah.
only so many people get to use that line.
Yeah.
Um, but in order for something to have, even if like you're getting fired from your job, or your spouse tells you they want a divorce, or your kid is like having a really difficult time at school, the number of energies that have to come together to create a situation in physical reality is monumental. It has to be so many energies of a particular density for it to even happen, because otherwise, like, if it's not that dense, and you don't have that many, okay, now you're in a thought form or a feeling, like it's not coming into a physical expression, there's just not weight enough to it. And where people, they this is why, like, watching your thoughts and like stepping out of reactivity and your emotional reactivity and learning to manage your emotions is so crucially important, and why Jesus's whole message was non-judgment and forgiveness. Like, you're forgiving yourself, you're not judging yourself. Sometimes that looks like other people when you're not, when you're early in the game and you don't
Hmm.
realize that other people are just you yet. But in order for all of that to happen, and for something massive to happen, it's and yes, there is an argument to be made that like certain events are meant to happen because they're going to, because you contracted to experience them before you showed up here. Those things though can be so minimized with prep work on that emotional level, and like thought, and just doing this type of inner work, so that when you do show up to the moment, you really are just showing up to the moment and moving the energy through. It may be devastating, may be difficult, may be heartbreaking, all of these things. But when you're somebody that is still in the land of reactivity and something happens, you've got old shadows that you have not dealt with that are driving your perspective. It's like putting on the sunglasses of how whatever is driving your ship in your subconscious that you are not aware of. Now you're coloring the situation as it's coming in, so able to you're not able to do anything but react from
Yeah.
your emotions, and you don't even know where your emotions are coming from. So now we're in the land of, I'm judging myself, so then I'm judging, and now we're in victim, villain, savior, which is like the background frequency that we are trying to evolve and mature out of as humans. That's a big thing that's happening, like Gene Keys, human design. They speak to it very specifically from that lens, but you can look at, Buddhist culture, and you can look kind of all over the place, even Christian culture, which is really kind of far down just in the density, just where it speaks to people. It's very much like a common, I don't know, it's like a peasant religion, which is fine. It's fine. It's just like
Yeah.
in the scope of like where you're at vibrationally, like the truth has to exist at every level. But that's where the Bible, like in the stories of the Bible, they exist at this very base density in order for everyone to access it and access levels of truth. But it is so much in density
Hmm.
that it's murky to find your way through to the truth portion of it. But it's doable. I personally prefer some just other material because it just makes it easier to find the truth kind of in all of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the keeping things from like punching you in the face and knowing when they are coming to punch you. I mean, this week was an interesting week, a more emotionally immature version of myself that had not would have, I mean, I could see where what was playing out with these couple of friends. I could see it all the way back to when, like, first becoming friends with them a few years ago, where I was playing out my own little shadow aspects, those little threads that were still left over from my car accident and my dead friend trauma, that was not confidently relating with the female relationships in my life. I was like giving a lot of my power away, and then in this like push pull dynamic where I wasn't just showing up open hearted because I didn't trust that this person wasn't going to hurt me because I had been hurt before.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of like, that's never going to play out clean. That's always just going to be the lesson that it is, unless when the moment happens and the lesson takes place, both people are able to recognize the lesson for what it is and just go like, hey, this is the moment, this is the energy, this is what we're doing. And that's a rarity right now. I think that that will come. I think it's a mark of your best relationships and friendships. And then it's also a mark when some of those relationships and friendships are just over and it's time to move forward. And I ignored signs for way too long, honestly, because I got pulled into the emotion because I had my own emotional baggage. And so then now I'm getting driven around by my subconscious bullshit, by their subconscious bullshit. And what are we even doing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and to even see that situation, how, like, with what you were saying before, if a similar situation like that would have maybe happened, for you, whatever, 20 years ago, you see, like, the situation could have been the exact same, but then the lens that you're viewing it from, it could have been this, like, monumental, like, life-shaking thing that could have, like, thrown you off for a very long period of time. And that's all the, like, stories we write on based on, like, the awareness we have around whatever things have come up in our life. And I think that kind of just speaks to, like, that moment, for you. I feel like it seemed like you moved through it, like, well. It seems like you were able to, like,
Yeah.
kind of keep the center and kind of, and there's always emotions that come up, but when you can see the emotion come up and understand where it's from, then you can just let it be there and it can move through. Whereas, like, if there isn't that awareness, it just comes in hot and then is expressed in that same unaware energy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you know how it is. Like when something comes in and I mean, well, it's like lighting your nervous system on
Yeah.
fire, and that's really hard to sit with. And I have compassion for, in this situation, like the other people. Like I'm sure that's how it felt in their nervous system, but that's not how it feels in mine and anymore. And it's because I've done diligent work to help neutralize that charge so that I can see it from farther away, so that when it's coming, I'd be like, oh, yep. And then it's meeting the moment. And for me, meeting the moment looks like, yeah, I mean, just taking responsibility. Like, yep, I did that. I don't know, trying something new.
Yeah.
If I need to readjust, somebody will let me know to make it easy and gentle. Like, I've already set my algorithm. I've already set my reality game to want to grow. And then I also became aware in the last couple years, I've been working on my people pleasing tendency, which is a big energy that is tied to lack and
I
abundance.
feel you.
Yeah, it's absolutely tied to lack and abundance. And I, man, the people pleasing and then it would like mix with this freeze fawn response that my body would like. And this took me a hot minute to figure out because I think we're so tuned to fight and flight. Like that's like the first nervous system responses that we learn. Um, mine would, a flight would be like the one that I would only fight if I got like really, really pushed to the edge, and usually just Chris. And even then, I'm like not a good fighter. Like
Yeah.
I it's such a weird body state for me where it's like I can't think clearly, I can't speak clearly, everything is just kind of like like it's just goes a little bit haywire. So I'm not even really comfortable, like I'll pull myself out of fight quickly, and I think some of that's conditioning as a woman, like you're not taught to move in the world from that place. So I think it's just like all of the programming and self all hits at the same moment. And so fight, I would pop myself out of that very quickly and go right in back into flight, and then from there into freeze and fawn. And then freeze and fawn, I think I have been in freeze and fawn, truthfully, like at a layer of my nervous system for 30 years. Like, and just now, and it feels, especially with this like situation that happened this past week, like it feels very unsafe to try to come out of that freeze response.
What do you mean by unsafe? Like, how does that feel?
It feels like something is going to come punish me. It feels like a truck is going to come hit me again. Yeah. And like it's going to be this unexpected sucker punch. It's this panic energy, which was interesting. I was thinking we had wildfires out here that we might have gotten evacuated for. We didn't end up getting evacuated. First wildfire experience. Firefighters were phenomenal. Like for us, it was really, other than like smoke in the air, and it made me think about like, I'm from Ohio. We're tornado people. We are panicky people. Yeah. We got alarms going off every Wednesday at noon, and like we get a weather event and it is like run, take cover now. And my family, when I was telling them like, hey, just so you know, like we might get evacuated, there's fires. My mom's like, you need to come home right now. Like you can't be
like,
there.
You go to Ohio? What?
I was like, oh, we're panicky people. Yeah. Like we are in our DNA somewhere, like we have a survival mechanism around this kind of panicked energy, and maybe humans, maybe everybody, I can only speak to my experience. And I feel like Chris and I were talking, one of his big traumas as a young person was he got sucker punched in the hallway and knocked out and didn't expect it, blindsided, right? So this is impact trauma that's happening. You're not expecting it. Like you're just moving about your day, thinking that it's totally safe to move in the world in this moment. And then out of nowhere, something hits you. Mine was the same thing. I was on vacation with my dad, sitting next to one of my best friends, and we're following behind our dads and on vacation, and like out of nowhere, impact trauma, which registers in the nervous system very differently than other types of trauma. It's why it takes so long in somatic therapy to work through it, because you're literally like the body vibrates back and forth. You have to work out every spot where that energy wants to move this way and then that way and then this way and then that way, and like move it out in a really meticulous way. And I think it just like sets you up for a unique set of contemplations, I suppose. I don't know. Like, yeah, I forget where I was like kind of going with that, but
yeah. That's interesting. Well, and it, like the perspective that it gives, like going through that, like to find or to recreate or refine safety after like a fundamental experience, especially as young as you were too. Like there almost wasn't even like a baseline of safety established, where it wasn't like you became an adult or whatever, you're 30 years old and life has been normal and then it happens. It was like a fundamental as you develop with no real baseline of safety. How old were you, like 16? 14. So like there's no baseline of anything. Yeah. It's like you're developing, you don't feel safe at 14 generally. At least I didn't. Maybe there's some people that would. But like there isn't necessarily safety because everything is changing and evolving so quick, and then there's all the insecurities and stories that come with being that age. So when you have all of those things coming together, then to have like a fundamental, like literal unsafe experience happen, it's like then you're just working to get to a baseline when, the average person is probably at that baseline in a sense by the time they're, whatever, low 20s maybe, and you're like just starting to recreate that. It is like a rebirth of sorts. It's like
Oh yeah.
restarting.
It's been eye-opening too, like as I have been on my own healing journey, and then really like in the last few months, I feel like I popped out on the other side of emotions and like emotional reactivity. Like I can just see it differently now than I ever could before. Or before I really felt like I was inside of the
Yeah.
emotions, and I would, I'd try and get perspective here, but then that would be, and it would just feel very, really kind of that impact trauma. Like, and I feel like I just in the last few months experienced just popping out of that and then being able to look at it and go, oh, okay, like I can interface with my reality. It's like clearing all the backlog, like the cache file of like emotional BS from the first part of life. But it's been interesting then interacting with people that have not done that work. And then, oh, this is we were talking about, why does it feel unsafe? The unsafety feels like a lot of the world runs on emotional reactivity and manipulation. And I think when you start to step outside of that paradigm, it can feel vulnerable because, because in that paradigm, people are happy to commit murder and fight, and like they're in the throes of fight and flight and freeze and fawn, and they're not even like they're not autonomous
That's
thinkers.
what I was thinking, because I was like, the reactionary part, it almost like it just allows me to have like a almost like a set path. Like it's not a conscious decision. It's like the environment gives me something that I get to react to, and then the environment gives me another thing that I get to react to, and it's like this way to I get to go on tangents in my head. I've seen Megan kind of like come to this point where for a long time she felt like life was just like passing her by. Like it felt like it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like here, life's passing by, I'm not moving, it keeps going forward. And it
I
goes to
felt that
that because
a
she was like
lot.
so deep into fight or flight. It's like you're always in reaction, you're always in fight or flight. And then as she's like moved out of that, she starts to become like more of a, I'm going to say conscious, but kind of like consciously engaging with reality. And then it starts to stabilize because there's a presence within that of where I am and
Yeah,
where she is.
there's a name for it. It's called your magnetic center turns on. They
Ooh.
talk about it in human design. They talk about it in a lot of different places. But you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you're like, it's almost like your interface point. Like you start to draw to you like experiences, guides, helpers, relationships, friendships, like from this different place that is, it lives in your heart, and it only turns on when you're starting to like make those choices and step into that consciousness. And like, because before that, like why would somebody come help you?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, and I could say in like these couple of like relationships, like that's why I look at it and I go like, oh, this was completely based on me becoming aware of some threads of my own reactive trauma that I had not been able to look at. And for that, I'm thankful to these two women. Um, everything, because I've programmed my reality. Everything is working for me to become the highest expression of myself. Period. I'm learning to not give my power away. I'm learning to purge my stories and emotions and my own reactivity so that my magnetic center is continuing to pull to me in ways that feel safe and gentle, the experiences that are meant for me. And then it's just meeting the moment, even if they're hard moments. But a lot of them are great moments. Sometimes those are the hardest ones to step into because it's like, oh man, am I like really like worthy of like
Yeah.
this experience? Like, whoa, okay. And I think where like the fear kind of stepped in that I had to reconcile, because like fear is like at the edge of the game, I think. Fear is the line of like when you hit fear, like that's where you're popping out the one side of the emotions, because like you have to reconcile that, because that's the thing that'll really drive your reactivity, which is why people that talk about like loosh and aliens and all that, like they're always trying to instigate fear, because it's like Monsters Inc. Like it just warrants a lot of energetic output from people that are not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the fear that I had to reconcile was, I'm safe to come out of freeze and fawn and speak my voice, because I have done a lot of work in order to know where I'm speaking from, and to just speak to my center, my energy field. No more, no less. I'm not trying to take from anyone, but I'm not going to give anymore either. Like, you either come balanced and whole and we can dance, or don't come at all. And it's not to say that, like, there are people, obviously, my life, my children, my friends, my husband, like, when I say whole, it's with the growth mindset. It's with kindness and patience and openness, that in tandem, like, we can work together. Someone can say to me, you could say to me, hey, Kristen, I think that, you know, I don't understand why you did this thing or said this thing, or are you sure that's how you wanted to address that, right? And I would look to you and I'd be like, oh, okay, hey, I trust you, I trust your perspective, I love you, so let's do the dance, let's talk about it, let's think about it, let's ponder it, let's pull this taffy apart and see what is it that source wants for us in our wholeness. Not, I'm going to tear you down and react to you and try to manipulate other situations or relationships in your life so that you know that I'm hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
no, that's
Because there
taking.
was a way that interaction, both of them, could have gone where, like, it could have been like an aligned, like, just like an understand or coming to an understanding or working through whatever it is. Like there was a situation where that could have been the path, but I
Yeah.
think it
And
gets
I
tricky.
approached both of them from that place. I
Yeah.
gave, I gave olive branch on both. I'm just like, hey, like I stand by my reaction, or my whatever I do, like, and say, like, I stand by it. I've thought it through. I'm a pretty meticulous person. Um, and that's not to say that, like, somebody else can't have a differing opinion or a different kind of thing, but how somebody comes at me when I'm going, like, yeah, okay, let's meet in the moment. Yeah, I take responsibility of, I'm sorry you're having this feeling and this emotion. Like, we can talk about it. And then it's met with, like, a desire to attack,
Yeah.
judge, tear down. It's like, okay, well, so we're not in the same moment.
Yeah.
So
That's where I
this
look
is
at, like,
taking.
I don't know, we've been friends for like 8 years at this point, maybe somewhere
Yeah,
around 8 years. And I
yeah,
was
been
just
through a
thinking
lot.
of like we've never had an issue in that way
No,
because I just like we just
never.
don't. I don't talk to you in that way, or I don't know how I would put it. I just I don't know. It just like this level of like where someone's coming at it from. Where like with you,
Yeah.
like I love you and I want the best for you, and I know if there's something that I perceive in some way to be different from you or maybe hurtful, whatever it is, I still at the very baseline like really truly believe where you're coming from. So like on some level I can't necessarily take it personally because like I know you and I know where you're coming from with it. So then there's like an understanding that goes with it. But if that underlying belief isn't there, or maybe whatever, I have my own things that like I view you in a different way than that, then like there's no way that we can really like stay aligned because it's just like
When
that's the fundamental belief that needs to be there.
it's telling where, like, the truth of somebody is coming from too, that they are in denial or like in delusion or having like kind of rose colored glasses about like who they are and how they're actually interfacing. A big part of my journey has been wanting to experience the clean flow of energy from my root all the way through. And a lot of times when I do energy work on myself, on other people, it looks like clearing lines. It looks like clearing piping. And a lot of the funky gunky stuff on some of those on that wiring is stuff that's really hard to look at. And it's stuff that the world will also tell you you're justified in not looking at.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be the victim. It's okay to be the savior. And I just, there would be something just like in my body that like if I was not looking at something with, and this could be I am the cross of informing, and I am a Virgo, Capricorn, Virgo. So I mean, it could just be that I'm just here to be a bitch.
You know, you do what I gotta do. I'm here to fulfill my destiny.
I'm here for my destiny.
Yeah.
But there would be this like part where I would feel the like, man, it would even show up like in my third eye. It would like I would see it in other people's energy field when they were like existing. It would look like a rose. It would look like rose-colored glasses, and I was always like trying to like peek behind that energy to see like what they were really hiding. And truthfully, the only reason that's ever shown up to me was these two relationships, these two people that were in my life. And it was something that I would just kind of like sit back and be like, huh, this is interesting. Like, I wonder if what this is, or, you know, I've never seen this energy before. Like, okay. And then it becomes clear, like in moments of conflict, like even in marriage, they say it's not really what you fight about, it's how you fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people fight dirty and don't take responsibility. And I don't do that. I don't fight that way. I'm gonna think about how it is that I want to express, but I'm only expressing my view, my personality, and I'll own that. Like I'm not trying to paint somebody into a corner or a reality. Like these are the facts as I experience them and like people don't want you. They want you in freeze and fawn. That are emotionally reactive because they don't want to hear how their actions affected you, because they want to live behind the rose-colored glasses that says that, you know, they're perfect and wonderful and
like getting into like if I'm in that reactionary energy, like regardless of what someone says, like they love to be in that energy. If I'm reactionary and I let all these things, like it's pleasurable. So then if the other person can engage with me on that same level, we get to start this energetic loop where we just like kind of yip at each other like little dogs, essentially.
And it's death energy. It goes nowhere. I've seen it. It does not, it's a closed loop system. And it just does not, it doesn't go anywhere. It cannot. And that's not, I don't, like, it's like once you see something and you see how the energy wants to move, you can't unsee it. Like I don't want to participate in throwing. I am here to develop my energy field to the best of my ability and to remain neutral. I don't want to take from someone else, and I don't want to be taken from anymore. My experience is my experience, and I'm allowed to speak to that. And I know I've done the work. I know that I can speak to that from a place of non-judgment, a place that wants to continue the energy of growth, where we meet the moment together and we both can learn and grow and move forward. And then that's kind of it. Like that's just moving the energy up and through. Like
then we just get to have fun. We just get to
and then we
do
just
this
have
thing.
fun. Like people are so averse to just freaking having fun. I don't get it.
I know. I was just talking about that with Megan in the backyard. Just like, you know, we're just hanging out, having fun. And I'm just like, people that are like being incredibly like reactionary or angry or resentful, whatever, towards their partner and continuing the cycle of like anger and bitterness and resentment. I'm like, they could be having so much fun. They could have the most fun. The most fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you're spot on. That kind of hit me like 6 months ago was when I kind of like, because Chris and I, through just the upheaval of moving and just, you know, we've had a big learning year. honestly, it's been pretty great.
Yeah.
But there've been moments that have been challenging because I don't know, we've never had this experience before, and we're having it together. And so all of my dusty crusties and his dusty crusties come up sometimes, and sometimes those, interface with each other in a way that can be difficult. And I found that like Chris has been really working on this, like, that kind of like inner defensive piece that I just think a lot of men, I kind of think you all get kind of stuck with it in the
Yeah.
sense because like as children you're taught not to cry and the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and like there's just a lot of things to be afraid of in the world, but then you're never taught to actually accept or acknowledge that fear. So then it turns into this like, I'm not really scared, and it's like, okay, we can see that you are.
Yeah.
um and so that piece had not gotten activated a ton in the course of our 20-year relationship, but when it would be like, I mean, it would be like someone else would take over, and I was enemy number one because I'm the wife, and it would be really really challenging energy that I knew that I wasn't the one to like help him move through. And I think, him working at the Powerful Man, him developing his friendship with you and like different people has slowly helped that energy start to neutralize. And then when we moved, it was kind of like we were sitting on like the last little node point. And at this point, I do energy work professionally. I can like very clearly see it, but I can't really say anything because it's just not, I also know it's not mine to move, and I can't take responsibility for that journey. But at the same time, like I'm living in it with him going like, this is getting really old and not fun. Like we could be having so much fun. And that was the moment that I was like, oh, that's where we're headed. That's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to have so much fun. And now it's just like figuring out how to let that in and feel safe having that much fun. Like letting the light in is, I think, can be pretty challenging at times. But I mean, I like a good challenge, so.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I had to think about the defensive part because I forget when it was a while ago. Me and Megan were talking, and she made like an offhand comment about me being defensive sometimes. And in my mind, I was like, "Am I defensive?" Like there definitely was like a blind spot, where because I can tell myself excellent stories and very logical and believable stories, I can frame defensiveness as, well, obviously I understand this the most and I'm correct, so how can I be defensive when I'm in the right? And it's been, I feel like, still a process of like releasing that. And
That comes from not feeling understood as a child.
makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Having to protect that little part of yourself that is seeing the world in a way that you don't feel like would be safe to express.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing how like a skill I developed over time was being able to like use my words well, especially in some type of conflict or argument. I feel like I'm generally pretty good in an argument. And I realized it was like a defense mechanism of like, oh, I can word salad my way into like looking right or winning a conversation if I want to. And it's a defense mechanism, so by extent, it is defensive. Cool.
Oh yeah, that was what Chris would do.
Yeah.
Chris has the same like that ability to tell the story, the words, like the whole. And I would just, it would, oh man, it would just feel like my entire nervous system was like on fire because it was
Yeah.
like I couldn't figure out how to say what I was trying to say because then he's coming like right back over the
Yeah.
top, and I'm like, I don't
I'm
know.
like, you know what? Just eat dicks.
Yeah, right. And then it's like, yeah, and it would be
Yeah.
so it's so difficult. But I think too, the willingness for you, and then eventually Chris got there as well, to like the desire to grow and change, like because it's just, and it's not that that defender piece is invalid energy. It's that when you have the lens, like you have the glasses on, where it's still in your subconscious, it has no other choice but to be like it's like a black hole essentially. And so you don't really have control of how that is expressing, and its only job is to keep you safe, which is an individualized experience. So it is the definition of separation from source, God. So it has nowhere to go but to keep you separate. And it's immediately separate from yourself and your divine connection. Then the next layer out is that it's you're separate in your relationship, your marriage, and then separate from your kids. It just expands out because it's always in the back, just black hole sucking energy in, even if it's just this little spot. And Chris, had for a long time, like was diffusing it. But, and you'll see it from, instead of looking at it as like the defensive piece, you might look at it as like, oh, I've got anger, or I've got like it'll appear with different faces till you get right down on that node. And it's like, oh, I just don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't from moment one when these rough hands pulled me out of my safe mother's womb. And, and it's just been, I don't know what we're doing here. And other people are telling me what we're doing here. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it right or wrong like, it's just one thing after the next. And that's where we do this work, the deprogramming and deconditioning and the self-belief and the looking at our emotions and meditating and all of these things to try to like get us back in, take all our power back, and so that we have the power and ability to look at that little node point and finally go, I can trust myself, love myself, and know that I am not separate from source, to let this go. And it's like a death. It feels like, oh, whoa. Like it can be very physical, visceral, like, man, it can be intense. The dog.
Yeah, I think that's really good too, because I didn't realize, honestly, until like very recently, how my defensiveness was related to safety, and like that sense. I didn't understand that part, or maybe I understood it, but I didn't it wasn't embodied in that way, where I didn't understand it on like a core level. And I didn't think about it until it might have been last month. I had like some conflict with Megan where it was kind of an argument, but in that, because I didn't even realize it, all of a sudden I had built enough safety that I could just engage with it without feeling unsafe, without my nervous system dysregulating. And then that made that I didn't have to be defensive, I didn't have to be like right, I didn't have to be whatever, I could just engage with it. And then after the fact, I realized, I was like, wow, that was like the most regulated my nervous system's ever been in any type of conflict. Because normally it's like, even on like the outside, I will seem calm, but like internally, my nervous system would be very dysregulated if there was any type of like conflict. And so then I realized of like, oh, the safety that I've built within myself allowed me to respond in a different way. So it's not even as simple as just like not being defensive. It's like building that safety so I can naturally not be defensive as a byproduct of that.
Yeah. Just letting it come through your channel, because it's going to, there's so much wisdom in it. And truthfully, when that is taken out of the shadow and then allowed to like transform into life force energy, it becomes such a potent part of your energy field, the thing that allows you to show up to the moment and create true, genuine, deep trust with your spouse, with Megan, because she's not registering your subconscious lack of trust in her, because that's the separation piece. So as you draw to her and she's able to experience that, your energy fields, then this is what, when they talk about like sacred union, this is how I see it energetically. I know people talk about it in in terms, or twin flames. I don't, I know that these words sound similar. I don't know how other people see this or experience this. This is just my own. It turns into, you become this like molded pillar of energy that is like so strong. Like you become a cornerstone of reality when you're able at those depths like see each other and come into harmony, and like not be responding and from these like black hole aspects, but doing the work to like bring these into life force together. And it is one of the strongest ways to shift reality. It's very potent, and you
Yeah.
figure there's a barrier, there's a container that as the masculine you are representing. And when you're able to meet her, as you drop that feeling of separation, as that starts to go away and you are bonded in this like deep trust, it sets up a way bigger container field. And now your home is in order. Now you are, in Buddhism they talk about like you don't get spiritual wisdom until you have earned the status of good householder, which in material realm means like, you're earning decent income, you've got a home, you've got, whatever it is, your house. um but spiritually, good householder is like we are united in our home. Like this is, we have energetically fortified our space, our home, our marriage, our relationship. So when things start to come in to try to break that down, which, whether that's friendships or, like in anything that wants to come and energetically take, that boundary is there and it's hardwired, and you can see it because you're not getting operated by this thing in the back of your mind that's like telling you you're unsafe. So if something comes like whimsically selling some illusion of safety that may trigger your subconscious belief, that thing isn't real safety. But this is how, a lot of times how affairs and stuff like that, like things get let in the door because we're not aware of our programming. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not to say that women don't have their things too. Like we're both, everybody's got to do their work. We're just, we're just talking about the men at the moment,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and by extent too, like even like the very definition, it's like double the, I don't know, like almost double the energy of it, like being with someone. And that's the like power of it. Like you can experience this thing that you just can't experience otherwise, but that it requires that like because the reflection's so strong. Like in a marriage, when you're that close, it's like the closeness of the relationship is the power of like the reflection. So if like things are off, it's like unbearably aggressive and in your face and intense because you're attempting to come together into this one thing. So you're very, very close, So it's interesting. It's like the ultimate, like kind of like the ultimate level of like syncing up with reality and around you and figuring out. And then I think some people on the other side too, like their way of like even just establishing themselves would be to get out of a relationship that like doesn't serve them. So like now you've set the base of yourself, you're working through that. Now you can have someone come in that actually is going, you can work with to come together. But I think some people like maybe skip that step of like maybe this person is just giving you an opportunity to like kind of settle your own house before you start this conjoined journey with someone else.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like especially for women, both of the women, the relationships that kind of broke down in the last week, like neither of them are married. Like they have not taken that initiation that life provides, um, which is telling in its own right, because the issue is emotional reactivity and immaturity. And so that's the thing that I think a lot of times that women in our magnetic essence, you know, if men are the electric and they're the light pole, yes, no, dominantly, right? We have both parts within us. And the women are out here as the magnetic, the magnifiers. We're like the low hum that's like a magnet, right? And like we're spreading out and amplifying the room that we're in, the relationship container that we're in. And in the Bible, it talks about you tell the fruit of the tree, you tell the quality of the tree by the fruit that it bears. And something that I'm currently learning is how to really look at what is the fruit that someone's relationship or themselves independently is at. What are they actually, what's being born here, what's being bared. And if it's just emotions wrapped up in a package that, maybe it's a pretty package that they're trying to sell, and there's not actually anything sustainable underneath it, then like it's just that growth hasn't happened there. And it's not that it can't, it just hasn't. And I think when you're in relationship, Chris and I, you and Megan, there was something very deep and core. Now, I've had trauma. Megan has trauma. Megan and I are very similar people. We're just, 15 years apart.
Yeah.
And I think when you carry like that node of knowing of some of that darker, heavier side of life, that was something that was kind of thrown in my face. And like the breakdown of these relationships was that, that I didn't know what love was without pain, which is a delusional statement, because love doesn't exist without pain. We live in a world where pain will fall and come into your life, everyone's life. We are
Built
all
in.
built in.
Built into the game. Yeah.
We come in alone and we leave alone, and the entire journey while we're here is falling in love with pieces and parts of ourselves that are out here walking around. And so it's interesting to me and telling when people are in denial of that truth, because how deep can you love then if you don't know that? And I think that in your marriage and in my marriage, it's been a huge benefit to have that knowledge early, because it allows you to really dig into the mirrors and the level of love that you can have for each other. And I could tell you, knowing you and knowing Megan, both independently, are two of the most loving and aware people that I know. That's why we're so close. And I did have one time I had a realization that God is a mirror, like the totality, right? And we just practice in this dimension and all the way up. How much can we love? Like, how much can we love ourselves, and through loving ourselves, love the reflections of ourselves that are walking around seemingly separate from us, until you get to the ability to look into the face of God, which is just the reflection of your own face. And if you hold anything outside of love, good, bad, anything outside of love, you would burn up. Like it would just, you wouldn't be able to look into that. You'd have to go to whatever dimension. I don't know where.
Mm-hmm. I still remember the one time I smoked DMT that, like, as I like closed my eyes and laid back, all the thoughts left, and the only word that could come into my mind was love. It was literally, it was impossible. It wasn't even necessarily, it was like I could think it, but it was just that one thing. And like, I didn't know anything else. There was no other word that could come to mind. That was the only one. And it was interesting to see that, like, in that place, that was the only thing that could exist. The word in that sense could exist.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I told you about this. So last Wednesday, oh my Lord, can't believe I just forgot about this. I had a spontaneous Kundalini thing. It feels like a little bit like basic white lady to be like, I have a Kundalini.
Yeah.
Which I realize is insane. So this is what happened. So I'm at the salon, and this woman shows up, this older woman shows up, and she comes in and she goes, the angel sent me. You're gonna need some help. You're in your with your solar plexus, and gives me a CD, like a chakra CD that she had like. I had to buy a CD player,
Yeah.
and like I'm not like when these things happen, it's still like kind of like a surprise, but also like they've also happened enough times that I'm like, okay. So I'm like waiting to get the CD player. So I've got like, I ordered on Amazon. So I got like 3 days or whatever. But night two, I have this spontaneous Kundalini awakening where really actually the next day I had like, I woke up in the middle of the night and threw up. And like I had just like this burning in my solar plexus. I was just like, okay, this is weird. But like, I mean, it's happened a couple times over the course of the last year. So I'm like, well, maybe this is just like a thing. And then, and it would pass. Like when I would throw up, it would pass. And the, I'm so loudly retching in the bathroom. And like, Chris is a light sleeper, doesn't wake up at all, doesn't hear me at all. The kids don't hear me, nothing. It was like I was in some alternate universe. My body is on fire. I have got my toilet and my shower like right across from each other. So I've got cold water running in the shower. I am throwing up violently and then like dousing my head with cold water to try to like get my body temperature to come down, all while feeling this pressure, this insane pressure in my solar plexus, like the movie Alien, like an alien was gonna like just pop out of my chest. I would not have been surprised. I've been like, yeah, this is exactly how I
Not the
imagine I would
craziest
feel.
thing that's happened to me over the last year.
Like, what do you name it at that point? Uh, I'm laying on the floor, and I can feel on one side. It was like the angel and the devil. Like I could feel on one side, and the lady that showed up at the salon, she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to backdoor this because your ego is really strong." And I was like, what do you mean backdoor? What do we backdoor? Like, what's that? And she like, I asked her, and she was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. That's what they said. I was like, okay, cool. So I'm like, what is this? My ego's really strong, and I kind of had become aware, like in the like the day before, like unrelated. Like I was just it like kind of popped in my head that my grandmother, who I had just made this whole like Sunday feast in honor of like my dead grandma, who was the same that came into um my near death experience, and she had shown up to this woman that had come to, she was like, yeah, your grandma's like real aggressive and real intense, like you need to keep sending her up to the light because she wants to be like in your field. I'm like, yeah, she's an Italian woman, yeah, she's intense. So she she was like, yeah, well, she's related. She was like, they weren't supposed to save you in your car accident. They like kind of worked that. They like bent the rules. So your ego developed around, an ego not in the sense of like, oh, I think I'm great. Ego in the sense of the part of me that is so desperately trying to keep me safe, and all of my ancestors that ever felt unsafe, and like all of these lower frequency things that are dictating any belief that I have that is outside of oneness with source. So I mean, that can be even like spiritual ego where you think anything that is separate from source. So source is like showing up in this like yellow, which I had experiences with this energy, this yellow energy before. I call it the land of milk and honey. It's the bumblebee land. It's like my favorite spot. It feels like home. Love it a lot. So that's like over here. And I'm even laying there going like, Jesus, like, help me, save me. Like, isn't this your whole shtick? Like, aren't you supposed to be like, what are we doing here? And, Jesus, like what I kind of identify as Jesus's energy. He's just kind of like, he's like, yeah, man, I mean, this is you. Like, you're fine. Like, I don't feel fine. Like, I feel like this is how people, like, I could absolutely see the part where had I not had all the like experiences or education, like I don't know how like a normal person would experience. It's like the desire to eject from the game was so intense. I was on the floor. I mean, in so much pain. The only thing that finally subsided it was, well, so I noticed if I at all let my thoughts think about that I was sick or I was dying or I had done something wrong to my body, or like if I give into fear at all, it was so painful. Like it would just like charge through my system, and then I'd have to get control of my thoughts again and get them like back over to the other side to like get it to calm down. And so it was like this like weird
How do you get
training.
it back to the other side?
Ho'oponopono.
Okay.
And then I put a YouTube video of um 528 hertz frequency. It was the only thing. And I was like sipping water and putting my head in cold water.
Yeah.
And I finally fell asleep. And I even when I like woke up, if a thought came in that was like any negative, if I smelled meat, like meat that had been cooked, it was like the death on it, I could smell it, which was weird. I ate a steak last night though, so we seem to be working that out.
But you see how people become vegans. You know, they're just like,
Oh, in a
oh,
minute.
yeah.
In a minute. Yeah. Like, I could see where I'm like heading that direction. And not because I like I love meat, but it's like it was just something shifted. It was just like, oh, like at whatever the frequency goal is that you're like introducing me to right now, yeah, that doesn't exist there. Like it doesn't even register at all, which is kind of funny for the people that like want to be so like aggressive about like needing to be vegan. It's like, now when your body is done, your body's done, and it's you. I mean, enjoy the trip until, I mean, it's a higher frequency to enjoy the experience and pray over your food than it is to like proselytize your particular worldview. But yeah, I was like, I felt like I could like see color, like I could hear colors and see sounds afterwards. I was like, this is intense. It has since chilled. I started listening. I got my CD player and then started listening to that. She told me to listen to it like every other night. And like from night one, it did like help chill the whole thing. So I don't know.
Are you talking to this lady still? Or is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was walking to work the other day and ran into her. And so which just randomly, which she had then printed this thing that said like, I am one with source, and source flows through me. And she was like, put this on your bathroom. Like she printed it off on her inkjet. So we like, put it on my bathroom wall. I was like, okay, well,
This chick seems cool.
yeah. And her name is Angelica Rose, which my sister's name is Angela Rose.
Damn.
Which I was like, okay.
Hmm.
I don't like, a reality just gets more bendy and cool. It gets more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit aggressive. And I had to like evaluate, like when I was on that like ego side, it was any time that I had not been like loving to my body, not spoken lovingly to myself, or someone else, it was I was seeing like images of my mom and my sister and like ways that like they're unkind to themselves and like not, it was like such a lesson in the depths of the love that we really need to like hold for our body and ourself. Like anywhere that you could just like give up any kind of thoughts or judgments or self-talk that's negative at all, like that's the direction.
Yeah. What do you think, why do you think it happened now?
That's a good question. Well, I've had a couple synchronicities around kind of as I watch reality in the collective. I have been, when we first got here, when we first moved a year ago, I was doing one of my nitrous chronicles. And let me let this dog out of here. Come here. You're gonna have to go out here. Come on. Come on. Hey, Cass. Out. Cassie. Hey. Go on. Okay. So when we first got here, and then fear came to me, and fear looked like kind of like Baphomet or Baal, kind of had like it was the the antlers, and like I looked over at my computer screen at one point in it, and like whatever picture I'd had as my background had been changed to a deer. It wasn't a deer, but like a stag, I guess is what they're called. In my background, which I was like, okay, so like, because they want to, I find that they want to show me at what density these things are real. So that, because I'll talk myself out of it and be like, oh, that was just a weird experience on whatever. And then I'll just kind of go on about life. So I was like, okay, so fear is coming up to be processed collectively, which also just means in my life also. So I've been on the, which is root, that's in your root. So I have been processing fear in a more conscious way since then, getting better eyes on it, better understanding of how where it presents in my life or it presents in my body. And then very quickly, because fear is kind of tied in with all the chakras and everything, so pretty quickly it started to move into the sacral. And the thing popped off with Diddy and Aubrey Marcus, and then, you know, John Romanello and our that we know, and these coercions and manipulations of sexual and creative energy and manipulation. And the sacral has also got its own little subtle pathway to the throat. The your sacral and your eye bones here are mirrors of each other in the body. So there's a pathway into the throat. So if you think about it, when we, through power of the solar plexus, pushing down and taking advantage of the sacral, the sexual and creative energy, there's a mutation of expression where the language itself has no other choice but to be kind of indicative of the suffering that is tied to that energetic experience. There is a high expression, but I think we're going through the process of learning how to communicate from that higher expression as we clear the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, and we redefine our relationship to power, powerlessness, sexual energy, creative energy, and fear. Like all of these things are kind of happening in tandem while the heart is learning how to, I mean, the heart is kind of the heart, the third eye, and the crown are kind of driving the ship to redefine this relationship of the fear, the power, powerlessness, sexual energy, creative, and the ability to communicate from the place that is not giving its power to the fear and the pain. So as we started to step into that sacral clearing, which is going to take a while, it's just it showed up publicly. And then we've also had this like solar plexus power, powerlessness. That's why people are so mad at Trump, because it's playing out now. It's starting to play in the very, very physical world, obvious. Everybody can kind of see it playing out. And then the decision factor is taking your power back and how you relate with these things that are happening in the field. So that, and then that becomes your personal work, because that turns on your personal frequency. Some people are here to get in the mix of fighting the good fight. Not everyone is here for a full conscious experience of oneness with source and to see themselves as that. More people are here for that now than has ever happened before. Used to be, you know, okay, we got a few monks on a hill, we got Jesus walking around, we got Buddha walking around. Cool, we've got these pillars that anchor this frequency on the planet. But we're in a we are in a paradigm shift in the evolution of what it is to be a human. And so there's more people here that their internal fire burns for that oneness and to know it and to anchor it. But not everyone is here for that. So we can't really judge where somebody's at. All we can do is like we just clean our side of the street, which is our own energy field, to the best of our absolute ability. If people are curious and they are drawn to you or whatever, then it's just a matter of, okay, I'm just staying in my authenticity. That's my one job. Some people are going to love that. Some people are going to freaking hate that. But that is my job. So I think we're just in the spiral of it where we're becoming more and more aware. How bad does that need to get? On one hand, there's not a ton of energy in the tank collectively for things like, I mean, they want the establishment wants to sell you fear because they want you to be emotionally reactive, ultimately so that you get tired of it, of playing in the Maya and playing in the game, and you begin to take your power back and go, it's just not sustainable to be in this much worry, anxiety, fear, depression, and to start going, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes to stop. I'm going to treat my body right. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat better food. I'm going to pray over my food. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to take a cold plunge. Maybe I'm going to take a walk. Maybe I'm going to engage in my relationships differently. I'm going to read a book instead of scrolling on social media. These small things that in a person's individual life that they can do to say to their reality, I'm going to focus on me and be the best version of me I can be. Because then that just pulls from the energy of like the political drama or the potency for people wanting to punish. That's what drives war. People that want to fight cancer, that drives cancer. To be participating in the binary of something means that the thing that you are against must exist. Otherwise, your energy doesn't have a job, and you are programming your reality and your energy field that that's the job you want. So you gotta shift the language on it. You've got to learn that heart space. You've got to learn the power versus powerlessness and what it is to not take power, but also to not give it. And to like, how do you stand on that square? And as more people do that, an awake person, a non-emotionally reactive person that is doing that work is becoming infinitely more potent because their energy field is just getting more sturdy. That magnetic center comes on, and they're healing their whole lineage and ancestral line. And so now you got all that energy coming coursing through, and you're divinely protected and all these things. Yeah, I mean, so it's just kind of it's a live and let live and live and let God. But the work is internal and it's emotional.
Yeah. I was thinking about the call it the conspiracy theory portal, where it's like I feel like that phase of my life was only there to like show me of like, one, this is exhausting, two, this stresses me out, and three, I can do this forever if I wanted to, or I can just not do it. And then all of a sudden it taught me that just like the lens that I'm viewing reality from can be this like incredibly reactive and stressful and taking my power away thing, or it can just, I don't know, not be that, I guess, whatever the alternative would be.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved my conspiracy phase.
It is
All
fun.
of 2021. Oh man.
It's a sweet energy to be in because you're like, oh, these fucking people, and I know about this, and then they don't know about this, and I've connected all the dots. It's fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so much fun. The place that I got to with it that was really helpful for me was that everything, and you can apply this to everything. If you can apply this to all the conspiracy theories, you can apply it to everything. Everything is both 100% true and 100% not true. And where that what it let me discover was where I had a dog in the fight what did I want to be true and what did I want to be not true and why? And then it always came back to like some desire for safety. So like I wanted the government to be like, not uh, child trafficking, but they probably are. I have to also like realize like, oh, so I can stop giving my power to these psychopaths even more because now I understand that I just want it to be true because I would never do that. So I want to project I would never do that onto the people that are in power, and that's the only thing keeping them in power. So then I was like, oh, okay, I don't need to participate.
Yeah.
That's
a good stopping point. I feel quite good.
Good.
Yeah.
I do too. Thank you for I like doing this with you.
I know. It's fun I don't know. It's a fun interaction. Let's do some stuff,
No, I
record
feel
some
like
stuff.
working through some of this stuff. I feel like we always do a really good job of like kind of meeting each other like in that just meeting the moment and being able to do that together.
Yeah.
We've always been pretty good at that.
Yeah. I think you're similar to me too, where it's it's easier somehow, like working things out is easier when I'm speaking it. You know what I mean? And it's almost like it's speaking it to someone for some reason. I don't know why. Even if even if it's not necessarily like they're giving me thoughts on whatever the thing is, it's just like in speaking it, it seems to do something that makes sense in me.
I totally agree with that. It's like it flushes it through
Yeah.
somehow more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. I feel so good. I have noticed this thing happening where I'll feel like this buildup of charge in my system, and it'll start to kind of like and it seems to be the mechanism is that I need to like go create like, and I need to like make a Instagram video or TikTok or podcast, or I need to, and it's like, it seems very throat speaking centered. That seems to be the fastest way to alleviate it. Which again, cross have been forming. So maybe there is something that I do feel like I've been being prepped and molded to speak more.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thank you, because now I feel like super relaxed right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, we got it out, good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a pressure release of sorts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, sir.
All right, ma'am. I love you. Have
I love you.
a fantastic day. And that's it.
I love it. See you later. Bye.
Cheers.